My finger hovered over the send button. One click and my resignation would be official. Outside the glass conference room, Olivia was frantically trying to explain to our largest client why their $3,500,000 payment had vanished into the system. Alarms blared from every workstation. The main display showed the number in blood red, $11,200,000 in losses, and it was still climbing. Developers were shouting across the room, trying to trace the cascade of failures. Someone knocked over their coffee. Another engineer had their head in their hands. This was the disaster I had warned them about for weeks, the disaster they had called me resistant to change for predicting. I clicked send. My resignation went through just as another wave of transaction failures hit the system. Olivia's eyes found mine through the glass, panicked and pleading. I grabbed my bag, stepped into the elevator, and watched the chaos disappear as the doors closed. 7 years of my life ending in the spectacular failure I had tried desperately to prevent. Before we dive into how everything fell apart, hitting that subscribe button helps more than you might think. We are working toward 8,000 subscribers who appreciate stories about what actually happens when ambition meets reality. My name is Liam Vance, and for 7 years I served as Principal Infrastructure Architect at Zenith Payment Systems. That title meant I built the backbone systems that process billions in transactions for our fintech payment gateway platform. Banks, e-commerce giants, and subscription services all relied on the infrastructure my team, and I developed, tested, and maintained. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood outside Detroit shaped how I approached everything. My father worked at an automotive plant for 35 years. My mother juggled 2 jobs while putting herself through nursing school. They taught me that respect is about competence and integrity. When I joined Zenith straight out of graduate school, I started as a junior developer. I learned from people who had forgotten more about distributed systems than most developers would ever know. I asked questions, admitted mistakes, and understood that technology serves people, not the other way around. That background made me protective of the systems we built. Real people depended on their payments going through. 7 years of 90-hour weeks, weekend deployments, and 4 o'clock in the morning emergency calls had transformed me from that uncertain junior developer into someone the chief executive officer personally consulted before major decisions. Or so I believed. The first crack in my reality appeared on a Tuesday morning in late September. Gerald Garrison, our chief executive officer, scheduled an all-hands meeting with 24 hours of notice. The company had grown from 60 employees when I started to nearly 450. We had secured our Series C funding 11 months earlier, which totaled $240 million. Acquisition rumors had circulated for weeks. Today marks a transformative moment in Zenith's journey, Gerald began, his voice carrying that practiced motivational speaker cadence. We are building the financial infrastructure of tomorrow, and to lead us into that future, I am making a strategic leadership change that combines vision, fresh thinking, and a deep understanding of where technology is heading. My stomach tightened. Strategic changes rarely meant good news for the people who did the work. I am thrilled to announce that Olivia Garrison will be joining Zenith as our new Director of Infrastructure, Gerald declared. The room erupted in polite applause. Olivia walked onto the stage. She was 27 years old, wearing a designer blazer. She had completed her undergraduate degree at Yale, majoring in economics, then spent 3 years in a rotational program at her father's company. Her entire technical experience consisted of a 5-month internship at a mid-sized technology company, where she had allegedly led an interface redesign, Director of Infrastructure. That was my role in all but name. I had been Principal Architect, technically a step below Director, but I had been performing Director-level responsibilities for 24 months, ever since our previous Director, Sean Fletcher, left for a position at Amazon. Gerald had told me the Director position was frozen due to budget constraints, despite our fresh $240 million in funding. He had assured me the promotion was coming. Apparently, valued meant training the boss's daughter. After the all-hands meeting, Gerald's assistant informed me that I had been assigned as Olivia's primary technical mentor. 3 weeks of knowledge transfer, starting immediately. The bitterness tasted metallic in my mouth, but I smiled and nodded. The first session took place in Conference Room 3 the next morning at 9 o'clock sharp. Olivia arrived 7 minutes late. She looked up, smiled with practiced politeness, and settled into the chair across from me. "So Liam, right? Dad says you are the person who knows everything about our infrastructure." "I am familiar with the systems, yes," I replied. "Great. I am a fast learner, so this should be pretty straightforward." She pulled out a brand new laptop. "Where should we start?" I had prepared a comprehensive overview covering our technology stack, architectural decisions, scaling challenges, security protocols, and compliance standards. I opened my computer and pulled up the presentation. Zenith's infrastructure processes an average of 65 million transactions daily across 18 time zones, I explained. We maintain a distributed database architecture with 9 regional clusters to ensure sub-75 millisecond latency for 99.5% of requests. Our payment gateway integrates with 450 financial institutions worldwide, each with unique protocols, security requirements, and regulatory standards. Olivia nodded, her fingers poised above her keyboard. Instead, she glanced at her phone as it buzzed. "Sorry, just 1 second," she murmured. She typed a quick response, then looked back up. "Okay, so we process a lot of transactions, got it. How hard is it to add new features?" The question revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of what we did. Adding features to a payment processing system was not like adding a button to a website. Every change rippled through dozens of integrated systems, required extensive security audits, needed compliance approval from regulators in multiple countries, and demanded exhaustive testing because a single bug could cost millions of dollars. "It depends on the feature," I said carefully. "What kind of additions did you have in mind?" "Oh, I do not know specifically," she replied. "I just mean generally, how agile are we? Can we move fast and break things, or are we stuck in old-school development cycles? Move fast and break things." That was the Silicon Valley mantra that sounded inspiring in a dorm room but became terrifying when applied to systems that controlled other people's money. In payment infrastructure, breaking things means people do not get paid, businesses lose revenue, and we face massive regulatory penalties under the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, 15 U.S.C. Section 1693, I explained, keeping my tone neutral. We move as fast as we can while maintaining the absolute reliability our clients depend on. "Right, of course. But there is always room for innovation. Fresh perspectives," she said. She had been at the company for less than 24 hours. We continued for another hour. I walked through our deployment pipeline, explaining our testing protocols, our rollback procedures, and our incident response framework. Olivia nodded frequently, asked surface-level questions, and checked her phone several times. As we wrapped up, she stood and gathered her things. "This is super helpful, Liam. I can already see some areas where we might want to optimize. Dad mentioned you have been doing director-level work without the title. That must be frustrating." The comment landed like a slap disguised as sympathy. "I focus on the work itself," I said. "That is such a healthy attitude," she smiled. "Honestly, I told Dad he should have promoted you properly, but he thought bringing in outside perspective would be better for the company's growth trajectory." She walked out, apparently unaware that she had just confirmed my worst suspicions. The 3 weeks that followed tested every ounce of professionalism I had developed. On day 3, Olivia asked why we could not just use blockchain to solve our scaling challenges. When I explained that blockchain technology was fundamentally unsuited for high-frequency payment processing, she suggested I might be resistant to innovation. On day 5, she proposed migrating our entire database infrastructure to a new system she had read about in an online article. The system had been released 6 weeks earlier and had exactly 0 implementations in production financial services. When I outlined the 18-month minimum timeline for that kind of migration, plus the regulatory approval process, she asked if I was always this negative about new ideas. On day 7, Olivia scheduled a meeting with our vice president of engineering, bypassing me entirely to discuss modernizing our approach to development. That meeting resulted in an email to the entire engineering department announcing new agility initiatives that would accelerate our innovation cycles. The initiatives included reducing our code review requirements and shortening our testing windows. I requested a private conversation with Gerald. His corner office overlooked the Seattle skyline, all glass and steel and carefully curated success. Photos of Gerald shaking hands with tech luminaries lined one wall. The other displayed his Master of Business Administration diploma and several industry awards. "Liam, good to see you. How is the knowledge transfer going?" Gerald asked. "That is what I wanted to discuss," I said. "Olivia is enthusiastic, but she lacks the fundamental technical background necessary for the director role. Some of her proposals could seriously compromise our infrastructure stability." Gerald leaned back in his ergonomic chair, his expression shifting from friendly to calculating. "Olivia brings exactly what we need right now: bold thinking, a willingness to challenge assumptions, and executive presence. She has been around technology her whole life. Her godfather founded a multi-billion-dollar startup. She understands the business side in ways that pure engineers sometimes miss." "Understanding the business side is valuable," I acknowledged, "but directing infrastructure development requires deep technical expertise. We are responsible for systems that process billions of dollars. One wrong decision could be catastrophic." "Could what, Liam? I have been making decisions about this company for 7 years. We have never had a major outage. We have never lost client data. I think I know how to assess leadership capabilities." The dismissal stung, but I pressed forward. "I am not questioning your overall judgment. I am raising concerns about a specific situation. Olivia suggested reducing our code review and testing protocols. That is dangerous. Our reliability is our primary competitive advantage. She is proposing we move faster. Every week we delay a feature is a week our competitors gain ground. Other companies ship new capabilities monthly. We are stuck in quarterly cycles," Gerald argued. "Those companies have 1,000 engineers and a decade of infrastructure maturity," I responded. "We have 120 developers and a platform that is only 5 years old. Comparing our velocity to theirs is exactly the kind of thinking that leads to system failures." Gerald stood, signaling the conversation was over. I brought Olivia in to shake things up and push us beyond our comfort zone. "Give her a chance. You might learn something." Day 9 of the knowledge transfer brought the first real crisis. Olivia had apparently spent the previous evening exploring the code base and decided she understood enough to make suggestions directly to the development team. She had posted in our engineering communication channel at 11 o'clock in the evening, proposing that we simplify our transaction validation logic by removing what she called redundant checks. The checks she had identified as redundant were actually sequential validation stages designed to catch different types of errors. Together, they formed a safety net that prevented fraudulent transactions, caught data corruption, and ensured compliance with financial regulations. Removing them would be like removing backup parachutes because you only need one to land safely. By the time I saw the message at 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 junior developers had already started debating whether the changes made sense. They were being diplomatic, but I could read the confusion and concern in their responses. I called an emergency team meeting immediately. All 15 engineers on the core team crowded into our largest conference room. "The validation logic Olivia identified is not redundant," I explained, pulling up the relevant code architecture on the main screen. "Each stage serves a specific purpose. Stage 1 validates data format and completeness. Stage 2 checks against our fraud detection algorithms. Stage 3 verifies compliance with regulatory requirements specific to each transaction's origin and destination. Stage 4 confirms the transaction against the client's account parameters and limits. But some of these checks overlap. Do they not?" asked Ryan Brooks, one of our newer developers. "If Stage 1 validates its completeness, why do we need Stage 3 to check it again?" "Because Stage 1 does not know about regulatory requirements that vary by jurisdiction," I replied. "A transaction that is complete from a data structure standpoint might be the information required by German financial privacy law or California consumer protection statutes. Each stage adds a layer of verification that catches different classes of problems, Could we consolidate them for efficiency? Ryan asked. We could, I admitted. We would save maybe 40 milliseconds per transaction. We would also create a single point of failure and make the system exponentially harder to debug when something goes wrong. The current architecture is distributed specifically so that failures are isolated and traceable. Under federal guidelines, including Section 404 of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, 15 U.S.C. Section 7262, we must maintain strict internal controls over our financial reporting systems. Bypassing these stages puts us in direct violation of those compliance standards. The room fell quiet as the implications settled in. I found Olivia in her new office, the one that should have been mine, reviewing what appeared to be interior design options on her monitor. We need to talk about the communication channel message you posted last night, I said. She looked up, her expression shifting from relaxed to defensive. I was trying to contribute. Is that not what you want? For me to engage with the team? Engaging with the team is fine, I said. Proposing architectural changes to critical infrastructure without understanding the implications is dangerous. I do understand the consequences. We would process transactions faster and simplify the code base. That is good for the company, she countered. We would also eliminate 4 separate safety mechanisms that prevent fraud, ensure compliance, and catch data corruption. That is catastrophic for the company. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Liam, I appreciate your experience, but Gerald brought me in to modernize our approach. Sometimes that means challenging conventional wisdom. This is not conventional wisdom. It is engineering fundamentals. Payment infrastructure requires redundancy and validation because the cost of failure is enormous. Or maybe the cost of moving slowly is what is actually enormous, and we are too cautious to see it, she said, turning back to her monitor. I will discuss it with Gerald. He understands the strategic picture. That afternoon, Gerald called me into another meeting. Olivia was already there, sitting in the chair I usually occupied during our sessions. Liam, Olivia mentioned you two had a disagreement about some technical proposals, Gerald said. Not a disagreement about proposals, I clarified. A necessary intervention to prevent dangerous changes to our transaction validation architecture. See, Dad, this is exactly the point I was trying to make. Any suggestion I make gets framed as dangerous or reckless, Olivia said, her voice carrying a practiced frustration. Walk me through it, Gerald said. I explained the validation stages again, the purpose of each check, and the risks of consolidation. I explicitly pointed out that under Delaware General Corporation law, directors have a duty of care, and bypassing established financial controls could expose the board to claims of breach of fiduciary duty. Gerald listened with the expression of someone waiting for you to finish so he could explain why you are wrong. Here is what I am hearing, Gerald said when I concluded. Olivia identified potential efficiency gains. You are resistant because it is not how we have always done things. That is exactly the dynamic I brought her in to disrupt. That is not what is happening, I said. I am resistant because the changes would compromise system integrity. This is not about preference or tradition. It is about maintaining the reliability our clients expect from us. Our clients pay for innovation too, Olivia interjected. They want faster transactions, new features, and modern capabilities. If we are so focused on not breaking anything that we never improve anything, we will get left behind. We improve constantly, I said, fighting to keep my voice level. Last quarter alone, we reduced average transaction time by 15%, expanded to 3 new markets, and integrated with 62 new financial institutions. We did all of that without compromising reliability. 15%, Olivia repeated. Stripe reduced theirs by 45%. Stripe also had 3 significant outages in the same period, including one that lasted 6 hours and cost their clients an estimated $300 million. In lost transactions, I countered. We had 0 outages. Gerald held up his hand. Both of you make valid points, but I need my leadership team aligned. Liam, you are the technical expert. Olivia, you are bringing strategic vision. Figure out how to work together. The false equivalence was maddening. This was not a clash of equally valid perspectives. This was expertise versus inexperience, caution versus recklessness, reality versus ambition. But Gerald had made his position clear. On day 12 of the knowledge transfer, Gerald sent a company-wide email officially confirming Olivia's appointment as Director of Infrastructure and Platform Development, effective immediately. The 3-week transition period was ending early because she had quickly mastered the essential elements. My new title would be Principal Architect, reporting to Olivia. A lateral move disguised as a promotion. The email praised my invaluable contributions and expressed confidence that Olivia and I would form a dynamic leadership partnership. 20 minutes later, Olivia scheduled her first director-level meeting with the infrastructure team. She opened with a presentation titled Accelerating Innovation, a New Vision for Infrastructure Development. I have spent 2 intensive weeks learning our systems, she began, addressing the 28 engineers packed into the room. I have identified several opportunities to modernize our approach. Initiative 1, Agile Deployment Cycles. Currently, we deploy major updates quarterly. Starting next month, we are moving to continuous deployment. Features go live as soon as they are code complete. I felt the room's energy shift. Several engineers glanced at me, waiting for someone to state the obvious problem. Continuous deployment works for certain types of applications, I said carefully. But payment infrastructure requires extensive testing, security audits, and compliance reviews. Our quarterly cycle exists because financial regulations and auditing processes mandate it. Regulations mandate that we verify our systems meet requirements, Olivia countered. They do not mandate a specific timeline. We can verify faster if we build better automation. Our current automation is industry-leading, I replied. The timeline exists because compliance reviews involve external auditors who need time to examine our changes against regulatory standards. We cannot automate away another organization's compliance review processes. Not with that attitude, she smiled as if she had delivered a witty comeback rather than demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of regulated industries. She clicked to the next slide. Initiative 2, Streamlined Code Review. Our current process requires 3 approvals for any infrastructure change. We are moving to a single approval model with automated testing catching any issues. Sarah Jenkins, our security lead, spoke up. 3 approvals exist because infrastructure changes can have cascading effects that are not always obvious to a single reviewer. We have caught critical bugs in second and third reviews multiple times. How many times? Olivia asked. Sarah hesitated, running through her mental records. In the past year, probably 25 to 30 instances. Out of how many total code reviews? Sarah replied that there were approximately 1,200 reviews. So, less than 4%, Olivia said. We are slowing down 96% of our development to catch 4% of issues. That is inefficient. That 4% includes the bug that would have exposed client financial data to potential security breaches, I said, and the one that would have caused transaction amounts to occasionally round incorrectly. A rounding error affecting even 2% of our daily volume would have meant 1,300,000 incorrect transactions per day. Then we improve our automated testing to catch those issues earlier, Olivia replied. The solution is not more manual gatekeeping. It is better automation. She was not wrong in theory. Better automation was always desirable. But she was proposing to remove safety measures before building the automation that would replace them. The meeting continued for another 50 minutes. Each initiative followed the same pattern. Olivia proposed dramatic changes designed to increase speed. Engineers raised concerns about safety and reliability. Olivia dismissed those concerns as resistance to change. By the end, the team looked shell-shocked. That evening, my phone buzzed with messages from concerned colleagues. Sarah texted, "Is she serious about these changes?" Ryan asked. "This feels dangerous. Can you talk to Gerald?" Rebecca Cole, our DevOps lead, wrote, "I have been here 5 years and I have never seen anything like this. What do we do?" I stared at the messages, feeling the weight of responsibility and the sting of powerlessness. What could I tell them that I had already tried talking to Gerald? That the chief executive officer valued his daughter's perspective more than the collective expertise of engineers who had built this infrastructure from nothing. I typed and deleted several responses before settling on, "Document your concerns in writing. If anything goes wrong, there needs to be a record that we raise these issues." It was the advice of someone preparing for failure. On day 21, our final day of official knowledge transfer, Olivia announced her first major project. "We are going to rebuild our payment processing core," she declared in our final session. "The current system is 5 years old. We need something modern, scalable, built with current best practices." The payment processing core was the heart of everything we did. Rebuilding would be like performing open-heart surgery on a runner mid-race. Our current core processes billions in transactions monthly with 99.97% uptime, I said. "What specific limitations are you trying to address?" "It is not about limitations. It is about technical debt and modernization," she replied. "I have been talking to some developers Gerald knows. They are using this new framework that is supposedly revolutionary, built for cloud-native, microservices-first architecture." "We already use a microservices architecture," I explained. "We have been cloud-native since day one. But this framework reduces development time by 55% according to their benchmarks." "What framework?" I asked. She pulled up a website on her laptop. The framework had been released 4 months ago by a small startup. The documentation was sparse. The production implementations list showed exactly 5 companies, none in financial services. "This is too new for payment infrastructure," I said. "We need battle-tested technology." "Everything is experimental until someone takes the risk," she replied. I accepted a principal engineer position at a major tech company 3 weeks later. The offer included a 40% salary increase, exceptional benefits, and leadership that understood the difference between innovation and recklessness. I submitted my resignation to Gerald and Olivia simultaneously via email on a Friday morning. Professional, concise, no explanation beyond pursuing other opportunities. Gerald did not respond. Olivia scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. "I am disappointed," she said when I arrived. "I thought we were starting to work well together. We had barely spoken in 2 weeks, but I let it pass. I appreciate the opportunity, but it is time for me to move on," I replied. "Is this about the director position?" "Because Gerald and I discussed possibly creating a co-director structure." "It is not about titles, it is about direction," I said. "The decisions being made are not ones I can support." "You think it is going to fail?" she asked. "I think it is being approached recklessly," I replied. "Unproven technology, an unrealistic timeline, and insufficient expertise are a recipe for failure." "Well, you won't have to worry about that much longer," she said, her voice carrying an edge. 6 weeks seems excessive for notice." "Are you sure you need that long?" "I want to ensure proper documentation," I said. "We will probably transition your responsibilities sooner," she replied. My final 6 weeks at Zenith were professionally lonely. I was excluded from planning meetings, left off email threads, and generally treated like I had already left. I spent the time documenting everything I could. I compiled it all into a comprehensive wiki. My last day at Zenith was April 12th. I arrived early to pack my items and check my documentation. At 10 o'clock in the morning, I had an exit interview with Human Resources. I gave diplomatic answers. The truth was not something they could fix. At 11:30 in the morning, I did a final walkthrough with the team, which was down to 28 people. 5 more had left, and their replacements were not yet hired. "The documentation is comprehensive," I told them. "Architecture decisions, system dependencies, and troubleshooting guides are all in the wiki. If you run into something that is not documented, email me. We are going to need that," Ryan Brooks said. Olivia announced yesterday that we are accelerating the rebuild timeline. Launch is now 5 months away instead of 8. They had been working for 8 weeks and had barely completed the foundational architecture. Now they were supposed to complete development, testing, security audits, and compliance reviews in 5 months. "That is not feasible," I said. "We told her that," Ryan replied. "She said we were not thinking creatively enough." At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I had my final meeting with Gerald. He had avoided me for most of my notice period. "Liam, I appreciate your contributions to Zenith," he said. "You helped build our foundation." "I hope that foundation is maintained," I replied. "Olivia has everything under control," Gerald assured me. "In fact, the rebuild is ahead of schedule. I wish you success," I said. We shook hands. 5 years of collaboration reduced to a handshake and corporate platitudes. I cleaned out my office and walked to my car. As I drove away from Zenith, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. I started at my new company on April 15th. The contrast was stark. Leadership that asked technical questions and listened to the answers. I threw myself into the work, trying not to think about Zenith. It worked for about 4 weeks. On May 10th, I got a message from Ryan Brooks asking for a quick call. "The rebuild is a disaster," Ryan said when we connected. "We are 7 days from launch and nothing works. Transaction processing is buggy. The fraud detection keeps failing. We have not even started compliance testing." "Have you told Olivia?" I asked. "Multiple times," Ryan replied. "She says we just need to work harder. We have been working 90-hour weeks." "Liam, we are not 80% of the way there. We are maybe 30%. What does Gerald say?" "He is hands-off," Ryan said. "He says Olivia is the director and makes the technical calls." "Ryan, you cannot launch," I warned him. "If you deploy unstable processing, you will have massive failures and violate Regulation E." "I know, but Olivia has already announced the launch date. There is a marketing campaign. Gerald gave a press interview about our new infrastructure. We are locked in." "Then protect yourself," I said. "Document everything. Put your warnings in writing and get the other senior engineers to co-sign." "We did that yesterday," Ryan said. "All 5 senior developers signed a memo recommending a delay. Olivia told Gerald we were being dramatic. He supported her decision." "Then keep a copy of that memo on your personal computer," I advised. The launch was scheduled for May 17th at 9 o'clock in the morning. At 9:15, Ryan texted, "We are live." At 9:30, first failures. Olivia says it is normal jitters. At 10 o'clock, error rate at 15%. At 10:15, clients calling. Transactions are failing and processing twice. We are trying to roll back, but Olivia will not approve it. At 10:30, Gerald finally saw the metrics. He is freaking out. Olivia is insisting we can fix it. At 10:45, we are rolling back, but it will take time. At 11:15, rollback complete. Total disaster. Ryan called that evening. $11,200,000 in lost revenue, he said. "How many transactions failed?" I asked. "About 480,000, Ryan replied. "What did Gerald say?" "He is furious. Demanded to know why we launched with so many bugs." Olivia blamed the development team. "We showed him the memo we sent, and he said we should have escalated more forcefully. Basically, we are being blamed for not something we had no authority to stop." 4 senior developers on the rebuild team resigned today, Ryan added. "What about you?" I asked. "I accepted an offer from Microsoft," he said. The industry publications picked up the story within days. Zenith's stock price dropped 22% in 3 days. Gerald issued a statement taking full responsibility. Olivia posted on LinkedIn about learning experiences. Over the next month, I watched from a distance as Zenith dealt with the consequences. They delayed the payment core rebuild indefinitely, returning focus to maintaining the old system. Gerald hired a new vice president of engineering, Teresa Caldwell, who was highly competent. Olivia's role was restructured to Director of Strategic Initiatives, which meant she went to conferences without touching actual infrastructure. Teresa Caldwell was running everything technical and instituted strict change management protocols. 3 months after I left Zenith, Rebecca Cole reached out. We met for coffee. "I wanted you to know what happened and to say thank you," she said, "for the wiki documentation you left. When everything was falling apart, that documentation was the only thing that kept us functional." The new vice president said it probably saved the company. She also said, "You are welcome to come back anytime." "I appreciate that, but I am happy where I am," I replied. I figured she smiled, and I wanted to apologize for not supporting you more when Olivia took over. We stayed silent because we were afraid. If more of us had backed you up, it would not have changed anything, I said. Gerald had made his decision. Looking back now, 2 years after walking out of Zenith, I see the experience with clarity. I did not fail by leaving. I succeeded by recognizing when a situation was untenable and having the courage to walk away. Sometimes the most professional thing you can do is recognize when you are not valued and find somewhere you will be. Sometimes walking away is not quitting. It is choosing your own worth. That decision changed everything.